Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Locked On Seminoles, where we are going to talk all about recruits today. One transfer offensive lineman who we think could be an absolute game changer for Florida State in D'Mitri Emmanuel, and two brand new offers at quarterback. What does that mean for Chris Parsons? We'll see.
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Locked On Seminoles. We appreciate you being here with us. I'm Max, that's Drake, that is Dave, and I'm in the mobile command center. As you can see, if you've followed the program for a while, means you're probably subscribed to the YouTube. If you're not subscribed, make sure you do subscribe. But you know, from time to time, I'm on the road, at my parents' house, seeing my daughter, all these things. This is the mobile command center. I apologize for any audio quality issues. Drake, who do you think's having more fun right now? Us in this moment, us as this is being played through the airwaves of YouTube or their favorite podcast network, and we're both on our way to go to Disney World, which is actually happening, or the offensive guards in Florida State's offensive line room, knowing that they have actually added some depth with the addition of the Charlotte transfer, and they might not have to play through blown out knees this year.
You know, I'm going to route my thick boys up front, my guy. Come on, it's those guys.
Of course. But that is what we are talking about today. Our boy D'Mitri, a 6'3", 6'2", actually, I think they have him listed at 305-pound offense. He's listed as a tackle. He's from Charlotte. He's not going to play tackle at Florida State, I don't think, unless something goes horribly wrong. He's too short, but he looks like a really solid offensive guard. His average Pro Football Focus rating is, I think, over 70, right?
I believe so, yes. I think he was like probably in the top 15, I think, on Group of 5 offensive guards.
Yeah, and again, most importantly, he's played for Alex Atkins before. So just a wonderful addition to this roster that was in desperate need of offensive line. And Drake, when you sat down last week with the Sports Illustrated head of recruiting, who now guest stars on the Locked On Network, you talked about the offensive line market and how every school needed one, but we weren't seeing the influx into the portal. You talked about this young man, and then all of a sudden he just kind of popped. So what do y'all make of this? I mean, it was like we heard him into the portal, we got excited, it was radio silence for a month, and then he was on campus signing paperwork.
I mean, that's why we kind of wanted John on there. That's kind of why it was really funny, because we were recording Saturday and I was thinking, like, should we drop this Monday? Should we drop this Tuesday? Because I had a feeling that the moment he was going to be on campus, he would pop. And sure enough, he did. I mean, and he discussed at length because we wanted to ask that question regarding linemen, where there's so many lineman needs out there. Why aren't we seeing more out there? And I think the truth of the matter is that, I mean, Dave says it before, quality over quantity. It doesn't matter, how many linemen are out there. It's really hard to find one that comes for a Power 5, caliber level. And D'Mitri Emmanuel is one of the few ones out there. I mean, when you say Tyler Steen, who's the Vanderbilt guard, is the best offensive lineman on the market, that kind of shows the state of affairs actually overall with the market as a whole. So with D'Mitri Emmanuel popping, that was just, it's a huge get for Florida State. Alex Atkins, the relationship, it can't be denied. I mean, I said also on the episode specifically that he is probably your best recruiter right now. He's also your best coach too.
Yeah, there's some weird things at play here. One is that, to answer your question initially, Max, I do wonder if kids around the country are looking around and going like, wow, 80% of kids who enter the transfer portal haven't landed at an FBS school. Like, that's probably got kids a little more hesitant lately.
Is that a real stat?
It's. I don't think it's 80%, but it's something.
It's like in the high 60s, low 70s. Yeah. It's a very large amount. Actually, it's a majority
crazy.
Of kids have not found FBS level programs.
Right. And so I think that's probably caused a little bit of hesitancy. But nevertheless, I mean, what a get for Florida State, right? I mean, we actually have offensive linemen. I don't even remember what that feels like. It's been almost 10 years.
Yeah, and look, I don't want to act like D'Mitri Emmanuel's the second coming of Cam Irving or anything like that.
I mean, we can. I mean, this is our
we
show.
could.
Elite lies.
I love Cam. We know we love Cam.
Let's lie. He is.
Well, no, it is. Here's the thing. We were asking a few weeks ago, if one of our two guards goes down,
what's the impact
for any amount of
season?
period of time, can we possibly win that game?
Is it an auto loss was the question.
100%. So I think that's what this does is now, you have to lose 66% of your offensive guards before it becomes a automatic loss versus 50%. So that's it's a 30% delta of buffer that you get, which is nice. This kid's not going to be a game changer, but for Florida State, because of what we needed, he very well may be.
Yeah, that's not only that. Oh no, sorry, Dave. Go ahead.
That 70 PFF grade is substantially better than what we've seen at the offensive line position, even as it's gotten better. Like there were areas of the offensive line, run blocking specifically, where to have a guy grade out 70 in a game was surprising and impressive. So that is a huge deal, even if he's not a day one starter, or even if he doesn't play, hundreds of snaps.
And not only that, he's able to do one thing that Max kind of harped on, I guess, a few weeks ago or a few months ago, where we can actually keep Maurice Smith on the bench to fully get larger, get bigger with this size, because he is probably your most athletic center. And we say right now with Kayden Lyles, who's a little plotter. He's a heavier guy. He's 6 feet in the ground. He's a thwomp. But we need Maurice Smith to bulk up and stay healthy, and that would be great going into 2023 because Maurice Smith probably at times his freshman year was your most athletic center, and also you're probably one of your best linemen.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I will say that is my one concern about D'Mitri Emmanuel, and I want to break down where he fits into the offensive line a bit, which will have us talk about his skill set in a minute here. But the athleticism does raise some questions, because if you've watched any of our I don't want to say film breakdowns because they keep pulling them down. But if you watch a lot of film, we like to do a lot of motion on the line. When we talk about the LSU game, we talk about that's really the only way you're going to block their two elite defensive tackles. There's a lot of motion on the line. And yeah, he's not the most athletic guy, which you can take that from his pass blocking being higher than his run blocking, doesn't require as much movement. But again, he's big. And, we need people that are big to be on this offensive line.
And his best grades came his first season under Coach Atkins, where his running blocking was actually a 66 and his pass blocking was a 75.9. Right. Yeah. Reunions are magic, man. Love it.
Yeah. And if you guys want to get big in the bankroll, you need to be at betonline.net. They got info, they got stats, they got odds, and they got places that you can place a wager. So y'all need to go to betonline.net. And whatever sport you're watching at this time of year, whether it's baseball, whether it's hockey, or whether you're just a degenerate person watching the USFL, well, betonline.net has what you need. So go to betonline.net, use promo code LOCKEDON to get a welcome bonus when you sign up. betonline.net, where the game starts.
Go Birmingham Stallions.
Yeah, folks, this episode is brought to you by betonline.net, but really it's brought to you by you. I mean, you are the real MVP of this, because if you're here, then you're part of the reason that we're here. So whether you're on the podcast, whether you're on YouTube, it doesn't really matter to us. We just appreciate that y'all keep coming back day after day and letting us do this night after night. So thank you for being here. Thank you for rocking and rolling with us. And thank you to the football gods that we have another offensive guard here. My question for y'all is, do you think this changes the composition of the starting five at all? Like, do you think that, let me ask this better. We know it's going to change it because we know he's going to get an opportunity to start. How many games do you think it will take to solidify a starting five now that you've got three guards in competition to all start?
You mean in general?
Yeah. Like, when do you think we'll finally find our footing with, like, these are our five?
Isn't that going to kind of answer the question of what is this season going to look like? Like, those are pretty directly related. If you're halfway through the season, you get past that first stretch of ACC games, and you still by that time aren't positive who your two best guards are, and you don't have a 3 deep rotation at guard that you can trust, the season's not going to matter at that point. So it has to be by the middle of that first slate of ACC games, meaning first 4 games of the season.
I was about to say, I think you're going to see the full starting five when it comes to Wake, which is your 5th game across the year, primarily because Duquesne, you're going to be able to hopefully experiment a little bit, not too much because we can't apparently experiment with any teams out there. You can experiment a little bit with starting five, like actually with Duquesne, and be like, hey, let's bring, Maurice Smith in for real quick. Let's see D'Mitri Emmanuel starting alongside Bless Harris. But legitimately, I think you're going to see the full starting five probably against Wake Forest. LSU probably will be probably the second most talented defensive line you're going to see all year, aside from Clemson. And then I put NC State as number 3 because Corey Durant is a all ACC defensive lineman. Ironically, now that he's no longer here anymore. But with Louisville, Boston College, you're able to see basically all the sets, how everybody looks, and also you're going to see if Kayden Lyles actually is able to snap and is still actually able to block. You're going to also be able to see if Bless Harris should be your tackle. Maybe also you move Darius Washington to the inside. And we'll see if Dillan Gibbons can, replicate his success from last year. So I think Wake Forest is probably a time where we're going to be like, okay, I think this is it. Because after the Wake Forest game, you play NC State, Clemson. You get the bye week to reevaluate some things. You got Tech and then Miami.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. I wasn't that pessimistic. I more meant during fall camp or after Duquesne.
Oh no, dude, after fall camp for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, typically it's not me being pessimistic. It's more like I think you want to experiment with stuff at the beginning of the season to see what actually you have also the rest of the year. And we're not going to go fall camp.
Look how young our offensive line is. Between the starters and the backups, 60% of it is underclassmen. More than that, even I think. So you're still learning about what the composition of the offensive line, especially with the incoming kids, look like. I don't think we know enough. We're still going to get, what's his name? Oh my God, I'm blanking on the recruit.
Julian Armella.
Right. He's coming in and
feeling early.
Let me ask that. So does this let Julian Armella then, because you're now going to have a legitimate 2 deep at guard, do y'all feel better about the what's the word? Do y'all feel better about the trajectory of his career? And I know it sounds a bit hyperbolic, but this is an entire other body that has to get hurt for Armella to have to play. And to me, that legitimately makes me feel better about the trajectory of both his career and what you alluded to earlier at center, Maurice Smith's career, because those are 2 guys that would have to come in at second string that now get to go down to third string at guard.
It starts their growth if you play them way too damn early. I mean, we see that you can't go from high school offensive line size, especially when you're not an early enrollee, to basically going up against full grown ass men at 22 years old, playing football. That's not fair to the kids. And we see that we've seen that over the past 5 years. It ruins them. Kind of like how Dave laments what happened with James Blackman his first season.
I was just going to say, it's hard to overstate how important the offensive line health and ability is in terms of not being a turnstile. That's the difference between Jordan Travis getting blindsided. He's out. And then suddenly Tate Rodemaker comes in, doesn't look good, put in AJ Duffy. And then what's his career like? Julian Armella, same thing. You put him in way too early, he gets beat up. And then you get Jordan Travis killed. There is a ripple effect that is very obvious and easy to see and doesn't require a lot of fanciful thinking.
Yeah. And speaking of that, again, thinking more long-term, I want to talk about 2 other potential guys that he might be protecting, and that we're talking about Armella, his growth over the next 2 years might make better quarterbacks for him being allowed to sit this year.
Before we do that though, Max, I want your starting 5 right now. See what you got.
Oh, okay. Yeah, absolutely. But I did have one more question, and then we can hit the starting 5. So let me ask you this. How good of a sales pitch is it if this guy goes to Charlotte for 1 year under Atkins, has 2 years without Atkins, and then Atkins is able to help him have a great year this year and potentially get drafted? And you can literally look at the PFF grades and go, okay, here's the 2 years he had Atkins. Great as a true freshman. Great, gets drafted. Here's the 2 years without, he slumps. I mean, that's got to be a great sales pitch for Atkins as an offensive line coach if he's got someone where you just don't have that type of case study with most coaches, right? Where they got a year with the kid, got 2 without, that kid had 2 without him, and then they come back under him.
Well, we know Atkins could take kids who probably weren't FSU quality and make them serviceable in the ACC. What we haven't seen is, can he take a kid who may already be good and turn him into an NFL or decent and turn him into an NFL player? So that's going to be an interesting case study in that, in addition to, like Drake said, the reunion.
I mean, there's a reason why Georgia was going to hire him after Matt Luke retired.
Yeah.
No, I think that's literally all you have to say. So, folks, we're going to run to a quick local ad commercial break, unless you're on YouTube, in which case you get to rock with us. So if you are on YouTube and you're enjoying the show, please make sure you subscribe, folks. We are almost at 1,100 subscribers. Now, I don't know if there's 11 people in my life that would say they like listening to me talk. So the fact that 1,100 of you are here is just a testament to Dave and Drake. And we appreciate y'all coming back every day and putting up with me in the meantime. So thanks for being here.
Gentlemen, I think only one person in this group likes to hear you talk.
Yeah, it's neither of you.
Your words.
Oh my gosh. The machine's self-aware. So this weekend, and when I say we, I mean our quarterback staff, they offered 2 more quarterbacks in the 2023 class. As you're listening to this, let me recalibrate your brain. Yes, 2023 is next year. The 2023 class are the kids that are going to be on campus in the spring if they early enroll. So I know. But these 2 gentlemen are Brock Glenn out of Memphis, Tennessee. He is currently crystal balled to Mississippi State. He holds offers from TCU, Auburn, obviously Mississippi State, Virginia. And then our second one is Rickie Collins. I'll say Alabama State. I'm not going to leave him hanging like that. And Alabama State. Our second one is Rickie Collins, 6'2" signal caller straight out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. He is a Purdue commit. He now has an offer from Florida State. He also holds offers from Arkansas, Georgia Tech, Louisiana Tech. And the rumor mill's been going around that he's probably warming up with LSU. I mean, that's his dream school. He's been very open about wanting to go there. So that could come into play later. But gentlemen, what do you know? What do you see? What do you say? What do you hear about these 2 gentlemen, Rickie Collins and Brock?
So basically, with Brock Glenn probably he shot up a little bit on the radar because he was the Elite 11 finalist out of Tennessee, which is kind of ironic because Chris Parsons was at the same exact Elite 11 Invitational in Tennessee. And actually, apparently they played each other numerous times. I'm not going to say they're friends, but they basically communicated a lot. And apparently they had a bond actually over at Tennessee during the Elite 11. And I mean, the kid looks solid. The kid, I mean, in my personal opinion, I think he puts a little bit too much like hip movement when it comes to just throwing the football. It feels like he's very non-balanced or doesn't trust his core. But then to me, he's a solid kid. But I worry a little bit too much if he reminds me a lot of the core other QB that we have in the room with Tate Rodemaker. So I'm a little more partial to Rickie Collins, which is the Purdue commit right now from Louisiana, Baton Rouge, who is, as Max said, 6'2", 190, a 4-star QB, and the number 175 kid overall in the country. And that's something that a little more that, okay, now we're looking at gas because also he's able to play both with his legs and also with his arm, which is basically, it feels like we've either had one or the other for the past few seasons.
Yeah. And the most interesting part of that to me is what exactly does that mean for Chris Parsons? Like he was to be the bell cow quarterback of that class. Like by some accounts, he's one of the better signal callers in the entire class. I think he's probably on the rise. And there was a rumor going around on Twitter, if you happen to be there for a couple of days, that, he was either decommitted or was going to decommit. And seeing the staff actively recruiting other quarterbacks in the same class makes, Max, you asked this question in the group chat. Does that mean they talked to Chris Parsons and he was okay with that? Or does that mean that they've decided, screw it, whether he likes it or not, we got to risk it because one isn't enough?
I'm pretty sure. I
did. Yeah, I did a little recon on this, by the way. Sorry, my parents' dog's a lunatic, and here she comes again. Did a little recon on this. Yes, the staff did let Parsons know the offers were coming. I will say what I was told was it was less to get his blessing and more to make him aware, was the exact language I was told. That doesn't mean they're softening on Chris Parsons, but I think they're realizing that in today's era of the number one commit flipping on National Signing Day because of NIL, Dion, yes, we know you paid him. You're not fooling anyone, but that's okay. You have to have options here. Like you can't be locked in on one guy, and you hope, right, that Tate Rodemaker is going to be able to figure it out, and you hope that AJ Duffy is going to be what you thought he was going to be, but you really don't have like a good timeline of succession in your quarterback room right now. And I just got to think any rational kid, if you say, hey, look, we like you, you're still our number one guy, we think you can win the job, but we need options, he would look at the current quarterback room and understand that. That being said, Chris Parsons was a little more highly touted than Brock Glenn. They were at the same Elite 11, and Brock Glenn made it to the finals. If y'all don't know, by the way, Elite 11 are these camps that go on all over the country. There's a finals, and the best 3 at each regional camp go to the finals. So Brock Glenn came in, I think, as like the 250th player in 247. He's up higher than that now, and he made it to the finals. I love the way he threw. I'm actually watching his highlights right now. I love the way he throws the ball. Drake, I think what you said about his movement is a good eye on that, but I take it a different way. You can tell he's actually been coached in being a traditional quarterback. He's very conscious of his footwork. He's very conscious of his movement, his rotation, which you don't see a lot in today's game because every kid wants to be Patrick Mahomes and throw across their body on the run 60 yards, even if it's not realistic for them. So I think he actually, could be a pretty interesting under the radar offer.
Yeah. Look, this is a numbers game. Florida State does not have enough quarterbacks in the quarterback room for us to feel comfortable, considering we're saying one wrong play and we're probably winning 3 games this year. So as far as I'm concerned, getting one quarterback, even if it's a 5-star quarterback, is probably still not enough because like you said, Max, could flip on signing day, or like historically, we could see a Chuba Purdy happen with any of the blue chip quarterbacks we have here or coming in. Load up as many numbers as you can get.
It's not only that too. I think it's just more my concern was why didn't you do this earlier?
I know.
I mean, you have a hole probably in the quarterback room. You need more bodies. You also are adamant about not going and grabbing someone at the portal. So why do you make this offer in May when typically when it comes to QB commits, they're probably one of the earlier commits you have in your class? And also we hope, and like I understand people are afraid of the whole Nico Marchiol, AJ Duffy thing happening again. I'm with Dave. You need to grab at least 2 in this class because you didn't do it last year when you should have.
Yeah, and I think if you grab 3, really, it wouldn't be the worst thing. Like I kind of miss the days where we used to take like there used to be kind of an understanding where you'd take 2 that you thought could start one day, and then you would take a guy that you knew was never going to start. Every now and then, look, that guy, Sean McGuire.
A Rodemaker, if you will.
Oh, look, every now and then you have a Sean McGuire where he wasn't brought in to start, but he ended up running a season for you, and he's won. We have done that historically. Will Secord was a kid. We did that back in the late 2000s. So that does absolutely happen. But my question for y'all is, I want to flip Dave's question on its head a bit. Do you think quarterbacks in the recruiting process are more comfortable having multiple kids be recruited by their school of choice, knowing how easy the option to transfer is these days? That if you lose a competition, because it used to be, look, if you don't win the starting competition, and every kid says they're competitive, I want to beat the best. Yeah, but you know what's better than beating the best is like just not having to beat the best and getting to stuff.
Job security.
Right, job security. Bingo. So, back in the day it was, if you don't win the starting job, well, you better rush through your classes, take 18 credits a semester and get a degree, and then you can grad transfer, or you got to sit out a year. So do y'all think it changes the calculus on the through the lens of the recruits themselves?
The recruits themselves, look, these kids have gone to Alabama and Georgia and Clemson. Like, look at what's happened at Clemson. And they just keep getting these like 5-star quarterbacks in. And it's like, how do you think, in Ohio State, how do you think you're going to start? Like 2 of you are not going to start. I know you're all 5 stars and you're all the best. 2 of you aren't going to start. So in their minds, if it's one of these elite programs, they seem to not care. They just like the name on the jersey. When it comes to a school like here, where you may not compete for a national championship right now, I think the calculus is probably a little different. I think it's probably more important that you're going to start. So,
or I think like with your first one, I think you're right about that part. Also, like when you do hit the portal, like, the former 5-star from Ohio State is in the portal. Let me go hit that kid up real quick. But then also, I think Max, with that question, the thing is like they more look for if it's your favorite school or if it's your primary school choice because of the coaching staff relationship you have and also the offensive scheme that you're just going to be great for you, and you don't play, you don't start, you can dip out and you already have tape on it for practices. That's what people use. So I think that maybe you try that out. It doesn't work out for 1 year. It's just so much easier to just dip out and leave because you still have the 4 years of eligibility left.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. And you almost have to think that Tokarz is probably telling Parsons that. He's not saying, hey, I want you to transfer, but he's like, look, I understand your concerns, but we need depth. And if you decide it's not the right place for you, like now you can leave immediately, but I think it's going to be the right place for you. So trust me on this. I got you.
You did say that you think that we would take 3 kids in this class.
I think we should. I don't know if we, I don't know if we can, but if we could land all 3 of these kids, you've got Chris Parsons, who's the bell cow. You got Brock Glenn, who might be the most underrated. And then you have your 4-star, and it's like, that'd be a pretty solid deal.
So does that, if we do end up taking 3, what are the chances you think Jordan Travis comes back for another year, for an extra year?
100% he's coming back next year.
I don't think he is.
He'd have to have a Heisman campaign to not come back this next year.
Yeah, but he could grad transfer or he could regular transfer now. So I think if you do that, if you bring all those kids in, it just depends on how AJ Duffy develops because Tate Rodemaker is not going to take his job. And look,
That's right.
AJ Duffy might not be ready. So I think what happens is Jordan Travis would absolutely stay for the spring. And I think after the spring, if he was not solidified as the starter, I do think he would transfer. If AJ wasn't quite there, and obviously Parsons isn't going to jump to there right away, right in one spring, then yeah, I think that Mike Norvell has a very frank conversation, says, Jordan, we need you to stay and quarterback this team. Now, could you end up with a Sean McGuire situation when Sean McGuire stayed for his senior year and then DeAndre ended up taking his job and he just, yeah, you could absolutely end up with that situation.
Good problem to have, though.
Them out. Right. I don't mind that problem as a fan or as a commentator, but no, I don't think Jordan Travis leaves early. I think his calculation is going to be based on AJ Duffy's development, not about how many kids you bring in this class.
See, I don't know about that because we've seen time and time again this coaching staff basically go against Jordan, where they're picking, Mackenzie Milton over him, also just basically the play calling too. If he has a year close to what me and Dave discussed on Wednesday, and he has a great year, he can transfer out and go to a much better situation. And will we blame the kid for doing that?
Jordan's just so hard as a transfer, though, because you really have to build your offense around him. And I don't know how many coaches are willing to do that for a one-year guy. I think he would be a great addition to a lot of teams, but it is a big gamble to bring him in as a transfer.
I'm not saying that he would get picked up. I'm saying, do you think Jordan would take that chance and do that and go into the portal?
Well, it's not the draft, right? You can put your name in the portal, then pull it out. So, yeah. I mean, I don't see why not.
Remember, Norvell usually pulls scholarships because of the portal.
Yeah, I mean, but that's your starting quarterback. That's the most important position on the field. That's probably different. Max, to answer your question, though, we bring all three of those kids in. That's one of those situations where the staff just has to figure out the numbers, because we're so short on quarterbacks that if we have the chance to have 6 scholarship quarterbacks in, several of whom you think could compete for, legitimate playing time or starter, then yeah, you just, one of them you choose. I'm not going to say Tate Rodemaker, but one of them you choose to ask to move on, and you just roll with 5, and there's nothing wrong with that.
I mean, we had a point where when Jameis was starting, there were like 6 quarterbacks in the room under him that were all just waiting for him to leave. But look, I think we're going to keep talking about this more and more because there is finally something to talk about. The dead period is over. The camps are starting to happen. The Elite 11's happening. And look, I think what happened with Brock Glenn is he's one of those kids. He had a great performance and the staff said, hey, let's take the risk and pull the trigger on him. And you're going to see more and more of those. So guys, thanks for rocking and rolling with me. I love getting y'all's perspectives. Fans, we love that you're here, and we hope you love these guys' perspectives too. That was Drake. That's Dave. I'm Max. And this was a mobile edition of Locked On Seminoles.
Take care, everybody.
Go Noles.
All right, let me hit the intro for you, and then we'll...
Oh, did you get the recording? Or